Previously on Obedience Podcast.
How do you guys think Christians should date?
You're not dating just to date. You're dating with the purpose of marriage.
I believe you can date more than one person until you commit.
When I did do the multiple, it never gave me a chance to kind of work things out.
So you cannot literally kiss the person that you're committed to in a relationship until you're at the altar.
We put this unrealistic expectation.
That's not your issue.
But
I
that's
don't
for
see a
me in my
problem.
house.
We will kiss.
I'm all for dating apps. I will say this though. Christians, you need to stay off plenty of fish.
And I would, just conversate with different people. Didn't really go anywhere until I got stoned.
It's kind of like if you see a red flag, because if it's smoke, there's always going to be fire.
A few years back, I dated a young lady who was quick to anger.
Dating is hard, period.
Yes.
Just obedience, 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 obedience. Obedience is a cornerstone of our faith in God. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Being obedient requires faith in God. Without faith, it is impossible to walk with God. I will. Obedience. Obey God.
Hey, y'all. It's Ashley.
And Shantavia.
And this is Obedience Podcast.
All right, so we made it through tackling singleness, tackling dating. So now let's get into the good stuff.
All right.
All right, so in the Bible, we see a lot of concepts of marriage. So we see Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, and
All the relationships.
Mary and Joseph. But the Bible does show you like the struggles of marriage too, which is nice. Sarah let Abraham sleep with another woman. Let's not get into David and his whole situation. So, the Bible gives us the good and it gives us the bad. I know that God wanted us to be in relationships. He designed us to be in relationships. So in this segment, this part of our series, Boot Up, we're going to discuss being in a relationship.
Let's do it.
All right. So in the last episode, you guys talked about how you all met on Bumble. So the question I want to ask is, we have to set up boundaries. How did you all set boundaries up from the start of your relationship?
Sit down face to face. We looked at, okay, if we were to do this, what would we want to do together? What would it take for us to get to that point to agree to be in a relationship? And yeah, that's how we did it. We just took our time and talked about it. Still do, honestly.
And it was weird. I don't know if you remember like our first conversations. Like they were pretty much real. Like of course we had the face-to-face kind of talk about like what we expected, but like I remember early on he was talking about marriage and like his expectancies of like, not that we were going to get married at that time, we were just talking about it. Like it came to a shock, but like I had this peace on the inside of me. But I don't think we really wasted a lot of time of like making those things known, of like kind of getting to know like our mind space of like how we thought about different situations and stuff is, of that nature.
What about you? I know your fiance is in here, but from your point of view.
One of the main things that we did is we talked about some of our past relationships and what that we weren't going to tolerate going forward in this relationship that we had. And one of the things that we did say, and because as some of y'all may know, I know, sex can cloud your judgment in a relationship, and just being transparent, especially if it's good. It's some stuff that'll make you overlook some stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So one thing that we did say was that we were going to be abstinent until we got married. Like we kiss, ain't nothing no kissing. We kiss now, but we did make a vow to where we wouldn't have sex until we got married, and we've stuck with it. And even in that boundary, because like I said earlier, even though I said I want you to pray for me, pray with me, I still like those other things. Like I still like to travel. We've been places to where it's just been me and her, and we were good. It wasn't no, man, we almost did or nothing like that, because we set that boundary to where we saw what we did in previous relationships, and we were still single. So now that we're together, we know what it takes to not make those same mistakes over and over again. So we set that boundary like within like the first week or two. We were talking about that, and that's something that we decided to do, and we stuck with it thus far.
Kudos, man.
Yeah, like just 100 some more days, and
Hey,
I'll be in
almost
there.
there, bro. Almost there, bro.
No pun intended. Right.
Pun was intended.
So I know, like one of the relationship series with Pastor Mike Todd, he did say, relationships where the purpose is known where the purpose is not known, opens the door for the devil.
That's true.
So I do think it's important to like establish those boundaries early on. I know the from my experience, the conversation is like really awkward, and so I would put them off like before when I was dating. I would just put them off, but now I know like, hey, you have to do it. Like it's important. Do it right up front.
Yep.
So.
Cause that way you're not wasting time. If you waited 2 months to be like, I don't believe in vacations. Well, if we're not married, and they be like, well, I do, and that's a deal breaker for me, and that's a deal breaker from you. And then after 2 months, you finally have that conversation. Now you see it, then you done wasted 2 months of your time. So
You can't get back.
yeah, it's good to have. To me, it's good to have it up front. To me, it's a red flag if you don't want to talk about what you want for your future. To me,
Ooh, I feel like communication is always something you got to work on, because I know for me, it's hard for me to express myself sometimes, because I can get so frustrated where I'm just like, I don't want to talk about it. But it's still affecting our day-to-day communication. So,
Communication is hard.
Man.
Because I'm the type of person, I match energy. So you give me that energy, I'm going to give you that
Uh-oh.
energy right back.
Oh.
So if you're not talking, we both just not going to be talking.
Can we talk about that? For a second?
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about
Let's
that.
talk about it.
We have. I used to do that. But you know what? That's where praying for discernment comes in, because sometimes you can think something's up, but it's not, or something could be an outside influence with somebody. I've had a situation where I wasn't talking for a whole day, but it was because I had a sore throat. But no, somebody wouldn't ask this. Not saying, not putting anybody on the bus, but I'm saying this. My other wouldn't ask because they just noticed I wasn't talking or I was short, and it developed a whole attitude over nothing, and it would have been resolved if you had just asked. Just ask. That's all you have to do. Just come and talk.
That situation sounds like something I definitely would have been through.
But I feel like I'm be honest with you. I feel like the underlying thing with that is pride.
Okay.
That submissiveness, where if you're really dating someone, sometimes you have to come to that person and set your feelings aside and address what's going on. Everybody's cut from a different cloth. So therefore, everyone reacts differently. My best friend's dad, and I call him Pop, told me that with most men, we only really want two things, really in the core, when you're dating someone. Someone who's...
I'm finna say,
Let me write it down. What is it?
No, real talk. And this resonated with me because he told me this. He said, we want someone who's going to check us when we're wrong. And when the world is beating up on us, you're going to rub our head and tell us we're going to be okay. That is probably my 1 and 2. That goes back to what you were talking about, Casey, being able to pray with me when I can't. I remember in Romans it talks about when we pray, rarely do we know what we ought to pray for. So the Holy Spirit makes discernment and intercession on our behalf. So I feel like when it comes to the worldly situations, relationship-wise, your other has to sometimes step in and understand where you're coming from. You know, we might not be able to communicate that, hey, at work my boss is a jerk and cut my hours and got my check wrong, and now the rent going to be late, therefore throwing off everything. And I might not want to talk about it because I'm still frustrated and don't want to project that energy to you, because you just said that you're a mirror. You reflect that. I don't want us to blow up by a bad day. So I think sometimes that's something we have to work on, not being a mirror of energy, but just being still. So, yeah.
peace be still.
Yep, that's exactly what I got. Real talk. I
Peace.
think that's what that story really harkens on. It's that stillness within you, because God can call you out and show you that it's safe to come out. But if you don't believe in it, if you don't have that stillness within yourself, you're gonna drown.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And that comes back to that spiritual aspect, because if that was to happen, where your boss is being a jerk or whatever, like, that's out of your hands.
exactly.
So at that point, that's where, if your significant other, wife, whatever, she knows out of your hands, but guess who hands y'all can put it in? That's when she come to pray, and y'all pray together, and y'all work through that. So that's how I look at it, that, because a lot of times, even when things are out of our hands, if y'all don't have that communication or that connection, they're going to look at it in the natural. And be like, oh, it's something that you did. You probably talked to him wrong. You probably was coming to work late, instead of being like, okay, baby, we're going to sit down. We're going to pray about this. We know how it looks, but we know who is the author and finisher of our life and of this situation. So
Yes.
we finna join hands or get on whatever it is, and pray about this situation, and watch God turn around. But until he turns it around, we're going to ask that he sustain us through this.
Like, hey, go ahead.
So, can you be unequally yoked in a relationship?
You can't be.
Yeah, we actually that's actually one of the. It's funny. I'm gonna go back in time, Casey, about 2 years. I've known Casey for 2 years now, coming up in February. You held an event, and it was a singles event where you just sat down
Okay.
and just had a talk, and that was actually the topic of conversation. The statement "unequally yoked" and what it means to you, and you actually can be. I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Everybody's cut from a different cloth, and their spiritual path is different. You can be unequally yoked at a time, but I believe as long as you're still progressing forward, we can't use the unequally yoked in a statement where it's like a death sentence to a relationship. Because a lot of times, if that's the case, we wouldn't have that relationship with Christ like we should, because we're ultimately unequally yoked with Him. So if we can get to be equally yoked with Christ, we can get to be equally yoked with someone else. My bad.
What he
My
said.
bad.
What he said.
My bad.
Yeah.
That's all you got
Yeah.
to say.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
that's it.
It was just Casey. You were speaking at the event. You hosted it. You and I believe her name was
Minister Fitz.
Minister Johnny Fitz. Yes. She went deep into it, and shout out to her if you're watching this somehow. I used to take that in context of, well, if you were unequally yoked, it just wasn't gonna work. But no, she broke it down and made it make sense that everybody is different. Everybody is different. As long as you are committed to getting there together, it can work. Like you can't just put a death sentence, or you're putting God in a box, basically. If you're just using that in the sense where if y'all aren't here at the same spot together going forward, it's not going to work. No, it'll be some days where I might lead you, you might lead me. So
You think we should define yoked? I think you kind of hit on it.
let's do it. A yoke is something that binds the animal, the ox, to the contraption to plow and till the land. So, and my definition may differ from other people. When I hear equally yoked, I think, what is the driving force between you two? What motivates you both? What guides you both? If you are bound by Christ together with Christ, and with the goal of being together and dating with a purpose, I believe you're equally yoked if your morals can align with the word together. That's equally yoked to me. But because that doesn't mean that I can't date someone who just started their spiritual journey. I might be a level 10 saint, and they might be a level 2 saint. It still could work for them.
Yeah.
They're just a baby in Christ, and that's up to me to lead them and get them to that point where they can walk and be more firm in themselves. So I just feel like a lot of people use that term out of context.
Yes.
So
And even in the scripture, I might have to pull it up. It says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers." You know what I'm saying? That's the key word to me. Because I know somebody that watch this and they like, they on that video talking about you could be unequally yoked in a relationship.
Yeah.
But they the devil over there. But so I just want to put it. We're talking about in that sense of unequally yoked. It's talking about unbelievers in the description and turn it. We're talking about as far as your dating, you know what I'm saying, your dating persona, your dating mind, the knowledge of where you're at, because it could be to a point to where, yeah, I'm a believer. I may be a fresh believer, right? And I'm still learning the way. Like nobody just became a believer and just did everything right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You were still learning how to do this and learning how to do this and learning what not to do, learning what to say, what not to say. So in that you're still trying to progress, you know what I'm saying, to like, okay, I know if I touch the stove and it's hot, I know not to touch it no more. You know, so you're just learning. And even in the word, man, I hate that I can't remember it. It says that what a wife can convert her husband if he's an unbeliever or something like that.
Yeah, I said that
So
earlier.
you know, I mean, sometimes people take the scripture literally, but don't apply it spiritually. So I think those one of those cases where you need to just sit down and realize that you can be unequally yoked with a person at the beginning, but as long as they're progressing,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, they're progressing, they're a believer and trying to get better. Then I think you're in good standing.
What you think, Shay?
All right.
You should do a little meditation.
Yeah, like I said, we got subtitles.
All right. So y'all spoke on, what the definition of unequally yoked is. And, you said that, unbelievers. All right, so let me tell you my story.
Story time.
When y'all was reading that, I'm dying at this.
I'm leaning.
All right. So I am guilty of trying to yoke with someone who wasn't equally yoked with me. So it was another situationship, so this wasn't a relationship. And I did have the conversation, with him about God. It was like my normal conversation. You believe in God? I was expecting mine. Okay, okay. It kind
That's
of went
the
like,
intro.
huh?
That's the intro to the conversation.
Yeah. He's just like, you believe in God? Yeah, I do. Oh, okay.
Oh, that was the conversation. Got you. Okay, my bad. Whoa.
That wasn't even a paragraph.
Right? Real quick.
Whoa.
But the conversation went into like, yeah, I believe in God, but I don't believe in Jesus. And I don't believe in like a lot of the things that happen in the Bible. And I was just like, how'd that work? you know? And, that same day I was just like, I don't think this will work. Because it wasn't just like you're this level Christian and I'm this level and like you're not there yet. It was kind of like,
Nah, cuz.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was like you trying to make your own religion over here, like, So at that time he was like, you're not trying to be understanding, like you're immediately taking what I'm saying and just trying to make it this. So I don't know how he did it, but somehow or another he convinced me to keep talking to him. So keep talking to him, and it was always just on my mind, and I would try to change. I think one of you guys said that you can't change. I would try to. I'm like, well, Jesus did this. All right, can you read this scripture in the Bible and let me know how you feel?
Oh, man.
But I mean, that would just lead to like more disagreements and more arguments with us. And so, what I decided to do was, okay, we just won't talk about that stuff. We'll just ignore that you believe that.
Band-Aid. See episode 1.
Was that a flag?
Man,
See episode 1 and 2.
Right.
So I just like, we're just gonna ignore that you think that. We're just not gonna talk about it at all. We can just move forward. But then, like, I think one day we were just talking about, moving the relationship to more than a situationship. And, I thought about it. I was like, okay, we're in a relationship, we get married. What are our children gonna do? Like, they gotta go to church. And you over here, like, I don't believe in the whole, like, concept of church. God is enough for me. So.
I don't mean to interrupt. Explain that to me.
What part?
I don't believe in the concept of church.
So basically, I have to speak loosely because it's not my beliefs now.
Oh, just put it out there.
So from what he told me, he said that he was one of those people like, this book came before the Bible, and this book says this about the Bible. And so we need to look into that type of person.
Okay.
So
Okay. I got what you're saying.
so when we got into the conversation of relationship, I just didn't see how it would work, you know?
Right.
And it goes back to the scripture, like, how will it work? I wrote down Deuteronomy 7, 3 to 4. And I actually read from an article on crosswalk.com. But it says, "You should not intermarry with them. You should not give your daughter to his son, nor shall you take his daughter for your son. For they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of the Lord would be kindled and burned against you, and he will quickly destroy you." And so I can't remember where I read it, but it's kind of like you try to like get with somebody who doesn't share the same beliefs as you, then they will try to pull you away from your beliefs. And so it's kind of like a safeguard that, God put in place. Like, this is why you shouldn't do it. And so, I mean, Ashley, no, it's been a journey.
Yes, it has.
I mean, but I could never like knock that feeling, knock that feeling of this isn't right. They would still mention Jesus. It'd be like, wait. I thought you didn't believe in him. It's kind of like, I don't think you even know what you believe in. It's kind of like, but that's not my project to work on. I guess at one point I was looking at it like that, like, okay, that's my project. I need to work on it. It's like, that's not my project. I'm going to let God deal with you, and then I'm going to go deal with myself.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and I should have known it was an issue. I mean, because like every single person I shared it with, they were like, you don't believe in what?
Honestly, when you said, and hindsight is 2020, because this was brought up to me by you before, because we talked about priorities, and on my wall, if you've been to my apartment, I have literally in blue letters God first, and she challenged me with that because it was sometimes I would try to fix things myself. And she was like, "Well, you say that's a priority and it's on your wall, but you're not really showing that. So when you put him on the back burner, I feel like that's why stuff isn't really working."
Okay.
So, what do you think about how long is too long to become married or to wait to get married?
No time limit to me.
Bruh, I feel like it needs to be made a T-shirt that you stop putting these earthly constraints on God's work, man.
Because
God knows no time. God is infinite, so time doesn't mean anything to God. So don't put God in a box with time, bro. Some people find love and be happily in love and married at like 40 and 50. And have been dating for 15, 16 years. And other people like, girl, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have been dating somebody that long. Well, that's why you wasn't dating them that
Yeah.
long. That's why you on the sideline, you know? So quit. No, man. Ain't no, nope. I got quiet.
I don't think you should put a time on it. Be like, okay, if we not married in the next year, I'm finna go. But I don't think you should wait too long. I do agree with you. We shouldn't put a time constraint on it. I did want to bring up the point of don't let. It's not a perfect time to get married. Like I know a lot of people wait 20 years. No, not a lot of people, but I don't want you out there waiting 20 years to get married because there's not a perfect time, or you're trying to find that perfect time that everything is perfect. I don't know. I don't want.
I
What
get
am I
what you're
trying to
saying.
say?
I understand. If I may interject, you're saying you're never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So don't let that be the reason why.
Yeah.
Take as long as you need, but don't let it be that you're trying to be perfect when you're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you.
Because a lot of people say, I need to get this ready before I get married. I need to make sure all my ducks are in a row. Like nothing, I don't think everything is going to be perfect before you get married. But I think as long as you guys have a common goal, you know what the goal is, and you know how to communicate through things. Of course, I feel like you should have a good foundation. You don't want both of y'all don't want to be broke. Moving into it, that's gonna put what is a restraint on your marriage, and that's gonna bring added stress. So I think you should be like, I guess, have that foundation or to be comfortable in that financially.
So let me pose the question. Do you think that is a legitimate reason to to be considered preparation, like getting yourself ready to be a foundation before marriage?
Yeah, I think because you don't want to come together incomplete.
Mm.
I think a lot of people think a marriage is going to complete them or a relationship is going to complete them.
Okay.
You should already be complete going into a relationship. If anything, your spouse or your boyfriend or whoever is going to complement who you are. So, yeah.
If that's what you've been praying for, I know Jeremy said it earlier about being ready. Just make sure that you're ready, because you never know when God is going to answer that prayer. I remember
That's true.
I was at a church one time, and a bishop, he got up and spoke, and he said that God was sending him to this place to preach, to that place to preach, and he said while people was going home and getting home cooked meals, he was going to McDonald's and going to a hotel room, and he was like, Lord, I need you to send me my wife or whatever. And he said that he was on a 5 day traveling where he was going speaking. He said on the fifth day when he was getting ready to head back home, he met and married his wife
The same day?
after 5 days.
Whoa.
After 5 days, and at that point they had been married 4 or 5 years. At that point, but he met his wife during that stretch, and after the fifth day of them knowing each other, they got married.
Don't put God in the box, bro.
But like I said back then, I was like, well, I'm engaged now, but I was single then. I was like, man, Jesus got to be I got to be sitting in Jesus' lap for me to, for me to do something like that. Like you got to be like, that's all right now, But that just let you know what extraordinary measures God can do. Because the thing about that, I feel like sometimes we're more cautious and scared of love than anything else. Because if I pray, if I say, God, I need you to put $1 million in my account, and if he turned around and did that tomorrow, I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm gonna wait about a year before I touch it because I don't know. And then we can sit around and pray for a husband or for a wife, and then they come, and it could have been nobody but God, just like it was nobody but God that put the money. You're like, well, I don't know. The devil know what you want too, and all this other stuff. So, I just feel like if y'all had that connection, I think your prayer, God will bear witness to your prayer. It would come in the way you'd be like, man, God, this couldn't have been nobody but you. So, and that comes without a time limit. I mean, most people don't. I don't think most people pray say, well, God, I need you to find me a husband in 3.5 weeks on the 10th day of this month and all this
Right.
other stuff. So, I just think just be aware, of what God can do and trust it.
Well, what I think is kind of like what you guys said, there's no time frame on it. But if God told you to get married to this person and you know he told you, then you don't need to wait. What's the point of wait? I mean, he told you to do it. At that point, like you're just being disobedient, you know?
Mm.
If God laid it on your heart to marry this person, you can't like make excuses why you shouldn't do it. Like, oh, I don't have enough money to buy the ring. If he told you to do it, he'll make that ring happen. Or I want to make sure I get a promotion before this happens. Or my money looks this way before this happens. I know what you said, but let me do this first. He knew what your situation looked like when he told you to do it. So I just feel like if God told you to do anything, don't be hesitant on it because he knew everything that was already in the way of you doing that and he made a plan for it. So what's the point of waiting? Don't be disobedient. And that applies to more than just relationships. It's everything. If God tells you to do something, do it. He told you for a reason. So
I actually 1,000,000% agree with that. And me and my family, we had that talk. And I could tell, I said, well, shoot, I said, I'll marry you tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you're down for it. And we actually went on the fast and prayed about a date. And I'm of the mindset to where I'm not the only one that God gotta say something to. If he say something to you and I trust you, I said, okay then. So she was like, well, you're probably not gonna like the date. And I was like, well, what's the date? And she told me the date, and I said, okay, I'm cool with it. You know what I'm saying? If I trust you enough to say that I could marry you, I'm gonna trust you enough to believe that you can hear, from God as well. So, so I said, okay then. I said, I trust it. So that's what we're gonna roll with. So, but I definitely believe in what you said. If God said it and it ain't nothing else holding you up, like y'all try to get a confirming date through God, but If that's not the case, I say go for it. But that's just me. That's just me. Because God's word is not going to change. You know.
Right. I understand. I think I'm a little bit more. I was talking to someone the other day. I'm more of a skeptic. I'm the doubting Thomas out the group.
Got to see it, huh?
Yeah, man. And I used to be shamed in saying that, and there's nothing wrong with being a doubter. I'm a skeptic, and I used to feel like that was me having a lack of faith. But then I think about why Jesus chose Thomas. He knew that about Thomas, and I feel like God selected his disciples based on the different personalities of man. That anybody who's like this person can drop what he's doing and follow me. And so with me identifying, I feel like Thomas is my spirit animal. I can understand being a skeptic of everything, but that's just me. That doesn't make me any less of a Christian. It's just that's just the type of cross I bear, that I have to be shown that, and God knows that because He called me by my first and middle name, like we talked about earlier. So that's just something me and you will have to deal with. That you know, I just can't act as readily as someone else based on faith. I have to get that confirmation, and I have to be sure in that confirmation. And sometimes God does have to tell me twice. Sometimes He have to nudge me a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But I want to know that I'm not acting on my own accord. So I feel like my doubt isn't just fear of missing out on something on the outside. It's the fear of acting on my own accord versus acting on His.
So you want to be certain.
Yeah.
So are you saying like you need like 100% faith to move?
No.
Not even
and
just like on marriage. I'm just saying
No,
like
and I
on.
don't mean that literally in every aspect. It's just I know me when it comes to emotional situation. This is new territory for me. I just want to be sure that I'm not acting on me because I'm a fixer. You know I'm a fixer. Even when there's stuff I can't directly affect, I still try. Or I try. That's me. And so I just need confirmation that okay, this is your cue.
So like you be like walking one day, and then a piece of paper fly in your eye, and it say Ashley on the piece of paper.
Right. And I'll be like, okay, God, was I just happen to be walking in on a lucky day, or is that what's supposed to? That's me to a fault.
Gotcha.
I just don't want to over assume God because I feel like I've seen how crushed people get when they put their expectancy on God, and that's not God's plan. And so now they're in a spot where they feel like, well, you ain't do what you told me you was gonna do. No, that's what you wanted him to do, and he ain't do it. So
And I can actually feel you on that because this was way back in what about '08 or '09, and my car broke down on me, and I was like, Lord, I got to get these kids to school, I got to go to work. I said, so I said I need I need to get a car, and it was one day, I had missed the bus and I had to walk from work, and you know where the old Roosevelt warehouse used to be over there on 43.
ooh,
I walked all the way there from my house, all the way there. And when I was walking, I heard God say, He said, you'll never walk again. I said, okay. And then after that, I was driving my aunt car to work, take the kid to school. And I remember I said, okay, God, I need a car. I said, but show me what, don't show me what I want to see. Show me
right,
what I need to see.
right,
And I
right.
remember I was turning onto the interstate, and a fire red Jaguar had almost ran the light. And I said, okay. And I just kept seeing Jaguars, whatever like that. But make long story short, I ended up getting a Jaguar. You know what I'm saying? And it was just so funny because I had never thought about that car, but I remember God, He was like, you'll never walk again. I said, okay. And then after that, like, I just kept seeing then when I was like, okay, don't let me see what I want to see, but what you want me to see. And that's when it was like a red flag type, what I'm saying, color. And I was like, wow. And then about a week later, that's what I ended up getting.
Right. I don't want to. What did they call it when your nose wide open and you wide eyed?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be that.
Cause I used to be that.
Looking for my blessing. Like, where's that? Is that it? Is that it? No, I don't want to be that. I just want to be focused, and it's just like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's how I used to be. I want. It's like I wanted to see what I wanted to see. Okay, that's God right there. And then like, no, it wasn't. That was all
Right.
Casey.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like we've had a lot of great discussions. So come back here, same time. next Friday for part 5 of this series. I'm really excited about it.
Me too, child.
So, yeah, come back. And as always, be obedient.